Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hen's Tooth Cafe. It's been a while, but such is life. Life gets busy. Actually, I'm going to be doing more than one video today, but this is number one. I'm going to start with this puppy right here. This is a kit. There's PCBs available on the internet. It's the Untitled Son of Storm-Tide Flanger. It's a pretty significant build. It's a big board, lots of parts. It's not a cheap build, but it's a pretty full-featured flanger though. I think Jurgen pretty well threw everything plus the kitchen sink into it. So it's stereo in-out. You also have inputs for control voltages for the modulation and the rate, or 1 volt per octave. The controls from left to right, top to bottom. You have input control. You have a mix control, so you can mix between dry and wet sound. Resonance control. You can have a long or short delay because there's 2 TDA 1022 bucket brigade delay chips in this. That's part of the reason why it's not a cheap build. And before I go any further, word of warning: get your TDA 1022s from a reputable source. I got burned the first time around. I went the Asian route, and I got 2 chips that were junk, so I sourced them from Small Bear. Small Bear has them in stock, and you're going to know what you're getting. The switches here for the delay, you can have a short or long delay for the left or right channel. Then there's some, you can choose different routes for your audio path. You can have it normal or inverted. You can have just a normal audio path, or you can go through an all-pass filter. You can invert one of the 2 bucket brigade delay chips, so you can have it either normal or inverted. All in all, it kind of just mixes up the tone a little bit, so you can really hone in the tone of the flanger by playing around with the audio routing. Back to the middle row, you have a bounce, positive or negative bounce, and you have a dial, a pot here for the amount of bounce. Basically, it gives you the same effect as somebody hitting one of the tape machines. You'll get a little warble in there once in a while at different moments. It's fairly random. The manual control, this harkens to the Mutron flanger, where you can control the width of the flange, or you can define what area of the flange sweep you want to use. The middle position, noon, is the full sweep, and then you can go negative or positive from there. Tuning, you can tune it either flat or sharp. Resonance controls over here, they work in conjunction with the resonance pot. You can turn the resonance off completely. You can have a long or short resonance, and then you can have it normal or inverted. Again, it will dictate kind of what the tone will be like as well, depending on how you set up your resonance. Down here you've got 2 controls. You have a envelope control and an envelope modulator. It's got an envelope detector in it. The newer PCBs This is the one that I have here, what I bought from Bride's Chamber, which was made according to the original Hable PCB. The newer PCBs, I noticed that the envelope pot is a switch. They've either switched it on or off. That is okay. I find that with the amount of signal that I feed into it, I basically have to dial the envelope pot all the way up to get it to detect. I guess if you have much larger signals, you can back off the pot a little bit. So that's really up to you whether you want to use a pot or a switch. One or the other will work fine. Then the envelope modulation, how much modulation you want. So basically it'll work something like a Mutron 3, but in a flanger mode. So you get a flanger quack when you're striking your strings. Down here we have the LFO rate. Here we have the amount of modulation for the flanger. So you can decide how much of the sweep you want for the area of the sweep that you pick from your manual control. You've got 3 different sweeps here. You can have ramp, which is basically sine wave. You can have slew, which is a like a lopsided triangle or sawtooth, and you have the sample and hold. The sample and hold is really cool. It's basically sample and hold flanger. It's quite poppy. It pops a lot. But if you're doing rhythmic effects, the popping is actually, you can probably just incorporate it into your sound. Then we have external 1 volt per octave control. We won't be using that. And external modulation. That's so you can set up your range from your external inputs. So here we go. Greco Les Paul. I'm using a clone in front of it because we all know how good flangers sound with dirt in front of them. The flanger going into a Tourmaster 4200. I'm using the clean channel and going into a cab with 212s. So we'll start with the clean sound. So we'll fire up the flanger. Now I'm going to go 3/4 of the way over in the mix. Resonance, I'll put it at about 2 o'clock. I'm going to use the full sweep. Modulations up around noon. I'm using a left channel, so I've got the delay on long delay. And I'm not going to be really playing with the pads here. They really won't probably make that much of a difference coming through the video. It's more of like you got to be right there to listen to it and decide where you want to set it up or how you want to set it up. We'll crank up the mix a little bit. We'll get it almost 100% wet. You can crank the resonance right up. And it's actually pretty intense. You can get it self-oscillating. less intense. So we'll back off a little bit here. Dial down our modulation. So it'll almost give you the impression of a chorus pedal out of control. I'm going to turn that down a little bit here. Basically, the way I've got it set up is that anything past 3 o'clock on the resonance or the modulation will start getting you into some pretty hairy territory. It turns into a real noise maker. Put some bounce on just so you can hear what it does. So every once in a while in the suite you'll get a little, you know, like somebody's just bumped the tape machine. So we'll go over the slew wave. So it's really like a sawtooth, except it's kind of like a combination of a sawtooth and a square wave. It'll ramp up, pause, and ramp down, and pause. Ramp up, and pause, and ramp down, and pause. Whereas on ramp, it's more like a sine wave. It'll rise and it falls, and it rises and falls with the like more evenly with the LFO. So the sample and hold is really kind of neat. So you can already hear it popping through the speaker there. You can back off on your manual control or your modulation or your resonance to get it less pop. So basically what it's doing is that it's doing a sample and hold of the sweep of the flange. So you'll fall in different parts of the sweep whenever. Sample and hold is like totally random. So instead of following a particular wave of sweep, that sample and hold will insert your audio into a particular area of the sweep wherever it happens to fall upon. So it's like totally random, and it really kind of like the Maestro sample and hold, but in a phase version. The sample and hold really, the Maestro sample and hold will really change your note or add notes, whereas this basically takes your note and throws it in various areas of the phase sweep. So it's kind of sounds similar to the Maestro, but it's different. So now we'll just try the turn the rate down, and I'm back on ramp. I'm using a full sweep. We'll try the envelope detector, and we'll turn that to about noon. So if I turn it down, I still have a little bit of LFO there. You can hear it flanging. Basically what it's doing is it's putting an envelope detector in front of the flanger, and it's depending on how much modulation you dial in, it'll modulate your note heading into the flanger. Turn the mix down a little bit. So it's a bit like having a Mutron 3 in front of a flanger, or a flanger going into a Mutron 3. It's pretty messed up. But all in all, I'm kind of happy with the amount of time I put into this build, because it's like the infinite phase, you know. It's a phaser that just does something that no other phasers can do. Well, this is a flanger that does a lot of what no other flangers can do. A lot of extra bells and whistles, all in one box. Pretty big box, but that's I guess I could have put it in a slightly smaller enclosure, but I like these enclosures, and I think it turned out all right. So if you're looking for an all the bells and whistles flanger, Son of Storm Tide. That's unfortunately you can't buy them already built. I think you might be able to get the PCB already populated. I believe they're out of England, or it's somewhere out of Europe right now that they're selling them. Like I said, I bought this PCB a couple of about 3 or 4 years ago from the Bride's Chamber. They deal a lot in synthesizer modules and PCBs. So yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. See you again soon. Ciao.